Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ba'd. A brother, he had 11 questions about hijab with some details. So I thought instead of making it just one-on-one, to say it briefly, otherwise it becomes a series of lectures, where we just say the answers inshallah ta'ala briefly. The first question is, what does the term hijab means? The term hijab means a satr, or concealing something. And what is meant by al-hijab, as we know, the word hijab means concealing or hiding the beauty. And hijab, by the way, is not just for women, it's for both women and men. Because men, they have a certain awra that they have to cover. So they have to observe some form of hijab or satr. They have to cover themselves to some extent. And for the woman, and inshallah ta'ala maybe we can study that more in details, the word hijab for a woman is not necessarily clothing, it's the satr itself, is the concealment of the beauty of the woman. So when the Muslim woman, she's at home wearing normal home clothing, right? Only her husband sees her and her children and so on. She is in state of hijab. Nobody would call this woman in hijab, right? She's in hijab. She's not wearing the scarf and things like this at home. She's wearing the normal clothing at home, but she's in state of hijab because she's away from the eyes of men. That's why if somebody knocks on the door, she does not just expose herself and open the door, because she's in state of hijab. So when she goes out of the house, the same way she was away from the eyes of men, her beauty is exclusive to her husband. The same way when she goes out, she is exclusive to her husband. So she's concealing, she's hiding her beauty from other men to be only to her husband and her mahar. Right? So that's why the word hijab, when people talk about hijab, they talk about the clothing, right? Because of being outside. So the woman should cover herself with conditions, and these conditions that the ulama mentioned are basically to avoid the beauty to be seen by others, right? So that's why when they say covering the whole body of the woman, that her clothing are not tight to shape the body, that it's not transparent. This is one of the conditions. It's not see-through, it's not tight, it's not transparent. It's not the special or the exclusive clothing of men. It's not imitating the kuffar or the disbelievers. And a sixth condition, that the clothing itself is not zina in itself, is not an adornment in itself. So even if it's not shaping the body and it's not transparent and it's wide and so on, it should not be by itself a piece of clothing that would attract men by looking at her, of what she's wearing and things like this. So that's what leads to the next questions. So why is hijab mandatory, wajib for women? Anything that is mandatory for anything, why? Is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us. Not because we decided that, or we like that, or we don't like that. It's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the women to wear hijab. And this is in more than one verse in the Quran, in Surah An-Nur, in Surah Al-Ahzab. And one of these verses, Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu qul li azwajika wa banatika wa nisa'il mu'minin. O Prophet of Allah, say to your wives and your daughters and wa nisa'il mu'minin, all the believing women, yudnina alayhinna min jalabibihin, that they will bring down from above, from their jalabib, from their jilbab, from their cloak. ذلك أدنى أن يعرفن فلا يؤذن الآيات. So this is from the hadith also of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, المرأة عورة, and the actions of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, which is all aqidah. What we're talking like this is all belief. Belief meaning that we get our deen from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam were applied at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When these verses were revealed, the women came out with certain attire, they covered themselves, and as the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, rahimallahu nisa al-ansar, may Allah have mercy on the women of al-ansar, when the ayah of al-hijab came down, they went out وعلى رؤوسهن من جلابيبهن كالغربان, that they put from their heads their jilbab like the crows or so. covered themselves. Immediate response to the ayat of the Quran. What is the meaning of khimar or khumur used in this verse? وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جِيُوبِهِنَّ. This is in Surah An-Nur. Al-khimar or khumur is the plural of khimar. And al-khimar is what is on the head of the woman. I don't know, the word scarf is not sufficient, but is what the woman put on her head. And this khimar, as it's mentioned in the ayah, has to have a condition that it covers the bosoms, right? وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ عَلَى جُوبِهِنَّ. جُوبِهِنَّ, al-jayb is the opening of the dress, the V, if it's correct to say, that will be in the dress. So the khimar comes from the head and it covers this. So it covers this how? It covers that when it comes down on the shoulder. And that part of the woman not shaping her body is that her shoulders are not shaped, which is a common mistake among many of the Muslim women. When they wear the hijab, they have something on their head and they tuck it in, right? And then they have their abaya or their whatever they're wearing shaped, the shoulders are shaped, the arm, full arm, and then the body and the front part, all of this is supposed to be covered with the khimar. It's not shaped. Nothing is shaped of the woman. And whether we don't have to be explicit, right? Nothing of the body of the woman should be shaped, whether it's her whole entire body or an arm or a leg or chest or whatever there is. It has to be not shaped whatsoever. So the khimar is a special part of the upper part of the hijab or the thing that is on the head, and it comes from al-khamr. Even the word khamr has the same root meaning. Al-khamr intoxicates the mind, cover the minds, right? And the khimar covers the head. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Khammiru aniyatakum." Cover your plates. Do not go to sleep unless you cover your plates. And he said the word khammiru, that means the khimar covers. And this is what the khimar is. And before then, what does the clause placing the وَلْيَضْرِبْنَ بِخُمُرِهِنَّ over the bosoms mean? Please give examples. I'm not sure if this is clear. That means it comes down, it's on the head. Again, it's not to be tucked in, right? This is not hijab, and we have to be careful with these things. A woman wearing a scarf is one thing, hijab is another thing. Hijab is to conceal the beauty, right? So this scarf or khimar has to come down and to cover and not to shape any of her body, and to be long enough to cover herself without shaping any of her beauty. Number 5, O Prophet, say to your wives, your daughters, and the women of the believers that they should let down upon themselves their jilbab. What is the meaning of jilbab on the ayah of? Al-jilbab is like the abaya, but from the head down, right? There are more than one thing that women wear. There is the abaya. The abaya, we know the katif abaya or the shoulder abaya, right? Where it's worn like a cloak. Al-jilbab, that's what they call cloak, is different. The jilbab comes from the head down. And the jilbab is more, or has more satr, has more concealing, because it's not shaping the shoulders. It comes from the head, so it comes down like this. And that's why is it permissible for a woman to wear the abaya, the shoulder abaya? It's permissible if she covers it with the khimar on top. But if she wears the shoulder abaya, and that's why if somebody reads from the fatwa of the ulama that it's not permissible to wear this shoulder abaya, they refer to the abaya with the shoulders and the arms like this, and there's some scarf on top being tucked in, and the body is shaped. And the abayat, and this is really a very long situation, but the abaya in itself can be fitna, because now it's very soft, and any wind shapes the body, and and the woman should be careful of this, concealing her beauty completely from the eyes of men. So this is what the jilbab mentioned in the ayah briefly. Muslim culture and style of hijab nowadays, such as leggings, pants, tight skirts, etc., are these from the correct covering of the woman. Of what we heard before, this is not considered to be hijab. This is tabarruj. This is adorning oneself. This is hellfire. This is haram. This is a very serious matter. This is major sins, something that should never be taken lightly. And whether there are pressures from the society, Muslim women, they go through a lot of struggle, right? And that's why it's the responsibility of men to take care of their households and not to let their women to be exposed and to be alone and so on, especially nowadays and so on. And part of which is that she is to be concealing her beauty. And many women, because they're weak, they try to fit in and so on, so they would look appealing or accepted by human beings, right? And this is what evil is. They should be seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So all of these things, of course, it's against hijab because it shapes the body and shows the beauty. And hijab is not based on reason. It's based on the ayat and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is an important point that many women, because they don't know how men think, for example, so they would think that they wear hijab by covering themselves with clothing, right? And it goes with reason. And she would say, I'm covered, right? But it's not about being covered, right? Al-hijab is not cover. Al-hijab is concealing all means of beauty whatsoever, and one of which is shaping the body. So all of these things, if it's shown to strange men, this is definitely haram, and it's not permissible. And with every single one look at her, he's committing sin and she is committing sin with all of the number of these eyes looking and so on. How about colors? Can they wear colorful hijabs outside of their homes? How about with flowers outside of their homes? Again, there's no special or specific color for women clothing, as the ulama they say. There's no special color for the hijab, right? The condition to the hijab is that it's not appealing, it's not adorning. So whatever the woman in her locality, the Muslim women and their hijab they wear, color is not an issue. But the issue is it adorning or not? Is it attractive or not? And people would look at it, oh, nice this, nice that, colorful this and that. So as long as it's not attractive to the eyes of the people, this is what is meant. And that's why usually the darker colors are much better. The woman, when she goes out of her home, she has nothing to do with beautifying herself, which is opposite to what women are created and raised. And this is something that needs to also for us to pay attention. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He talked about the women, He said, أَوَمَنْ يُنَشَّأُ فِي الْحِلْيَةِ وَهُوَ فِي الْخِصَامِ غَيْرُ مُبِينٍ. They are raised in hilya, they are raised in adornment. They like these things, and men should let them do these things. The Muslim woman should not be deprived from adorning herself. And the men, the husbands, whatever, they should provide that for her. They like to do this. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about them. But this is when, this is where, this is to the men, to the women, of the men that are maharim to her, to the women, and that's it, not the whole entire world. And that's why the ibadah to her, the ibadah to the woman, of something that she likes to do, she do it, but only for her husband, for maharim. But when she goes outside, she has nothing to do with beauty whatsoever. The hadith, you would find the word, كُنَّا يَخْرُجْنَا تَفِلَاتٍ. They go out with no perfume on, with no good looking. People would say, but our women look scary. It's a good thing, mashallah. They should look, we're not saying scary, but why you want them to look attractive to others, right? They should not be attracting the eyes of others outside of their home. In their home, this is their opportunity to do whatever, as long as it's halal. But sometimes we don't have this balance. So color is not an issue, but to make sure that this is not attractive and it's with the conditions of hijab and so on, and darker ones definitely is better. Is pink color allowed? How about red? How about yellow? Bright colors in general. This is more specific things. Again, the things that would attract the eyes, and some colors would shape the body more because of the clothing, or the cloth is soft. And if someone read, for example, Aisha radiallahu anha, she was wearing something mu'asfar or muwarrad, that means it has decoration in it. It's not what people would think of the clothing today. It has nothing to do with adornment. The clothing now, the effort that they put in it to make it so soft, it's nothing totally different. I don't know if you've seen the clothing, the hijab of the Afghani women. Right? You see how, and it's not black. Sometimes it's different color. Is that adornment whatsoever? You know what I'm talking about? This. Yes.
Goes down from your head till.
Right, and it's different colors, right? But it has nothing to do with adornment. It's not attractive to the eyes. So if there is some narrations that talk about colors that was present, is not what we think of colors and fashions and things like this that would attract. So the key word to it is that it should not be zina, should not be adornment that would attract others. I'm taking too much of your time. 3 more questions. What colors are the colors that the Sahabiyat were outside of their home? When we talk about the Sahabiyat specifically, as they mentioned in the Hadith al-Bukhari, when the ayah was revealed, they went out with libasin suit, came out with black clothing on. The ulama, they say the significance of black is not that it's part of the deen, that it has to be black, right? But this is what happened, and this is what they had, and that's why they would say the darker colors are better because it's less attractive. So this is what they will, and this is what the norm of many of the Muslim women, which is a good thing, and it should stay that way. But once to be persistent and to be consistent, and again following what the ulama they say, when someone says, is there a special color for women to wear in hijab? There's no evidence that says women are not permissible for them to wear anything but black. So if it's black, if it's gray, if it's brown, if it's dark blue, these types of things, as long again as it's not something that is adorning and it's not shaping the body. And with the shaping the body, I know that it sounds extreme and things like this, but extreme compared to what? Yes, it sounds extreme to the time that we live in. A woman, the question always comes about, can a woman, when the time for salah comes, and the woman is outside of her home, how can she pray? She has to pray. And they would say, can she pray sitting? Because if she prays in public or somewhere like men do, and she makes sujood, she would expose herself because the clothing are not proper. The woman, if she prays like men do in rest areas and so on, she should stand and make sujood and ruku'. If she's wearing proper clothing, she won't be exposing herself, right? But the problem is that it's tight. So the salah becomes difficult for people to see her and so on. It's part of the adornment. So something that we need to raise our daughters even, because sometimes it takes generation. When a woman is going outside of her house, what does she do with herself? Does she stand in front of the mirror? Does she make sure that this like this and it's fit? This is a problem. What is she's trying to do? What's the statement here? That she's beautifying herself for people to see? No, she's supposed to go out without no zina. Again, might sound very difficult and harsh and so on, but all of the zina then should be invested in the home, right? Not outside of the home. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And the more we see things like this, the more that we should be patient with the orders of Allah and make it easy for the women, right? Because they have to go through this. So the men, they have responsibility, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Istawsu bin nisa'i khayra." Take care of the women, be kind to them, be extremely kind to them and generous to them and so on. Okay, last 2 questions. Some people, when it comes to the style, color and material of the khimar and jilbab, each Muslim ethnic group can follow the Quranic injunction according to their own cultural background. The variety in styles of implementing the same Quranic laws is so because Islam is a world religion. It cannot be confirmed to one region or tribe or culture, so I can wear pink or shiny colors if that's the norm among my people where I live. Please elaborate on the above. Yes, women, they can wear whatever they wear in their locality, right? As long as it's not zina, as long as it's not adorning, right? So shiny things like this, that attracts the eyes of people. Then men, right? And men are present here, and I have to be careful with my words. But men, in large, within themselves, they are wolves, right? And we know that very well. When a woman is passing by, the struggle is not to look, or the struggle is to look. If a person is a man, if a man is fahl min al-rijal, he's a man, right? He would struggle with himself not to look, even if he's married 4 wives. He has to be patient not to look at a woman passing by. Women think the husband is very faithful, my husband never. No, he's just a normal thing for him. This is a lie, right? And women are deceived by this. If he's Shaykhul Islam, right? If he's the biggest alim and a woman passing by, he has to have patience to lower his gaze. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered men to lower their gaze, right? So for people to think that this is a norm thing, no. Men, they look. And this is khiyana, right? This is betrayal to this woman that has a husband, that a man would look at her, want to see something in her. Even if she's wearing hijab, he wants to see a flaw or some problem that she left or issue. He would check everything she has, even the eyes. And men do this if they don't have religion, if their religion are weak. Anything that can get, this will be pleasurable for them, right? So that's why it's, yes, some women would say, well, this is the problem with the men. They should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, they should fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what if they don't? Still, it's her responsibility that she's away from all kinds of zina and adornment that would make herself, in harm's way. So that's why the different cultural things is valid in general terms, as long as there's no, again, zina that would attract the eyes of people, would make them follow the woman to see any means of beauty there. The final thing is, and finally, what is the meaning of the hadith towards the later days of this ummah? You will see women dressed but naked, curse them because they are cursed. Now, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, about النساء كاسيات عاريات. النساء صنفان من أمتي لم أرهما. The Prophet ﷺ said, 2 types of my ummah I didn't see. That means they were not present at this time. One is رجال معهم سياط كأذناب البقر أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Men, they have whips like the tail of the cow, beating people with it, right? Like police and things like this, and the other kind, ونساء كاسيات عاريات مائلات مميلات على رؤوسهن كأسنمة البخت. And women, نساء كاسيات, they're clothed, عاريات, but really they are naked, they're not clothed because the clothing is shaping or transparent or whatever. مائلات مميلات, they walk in a way swerving like this, to attract the eyes of others. على رؤوسهن كأسنمة البخت, on their heads is like the hump of a camel. Their hair is made in such a way, although they are covered. Whether it's the hair is exposed, which is of course haram, or the head is covered, but the hair is made in a bundle or something like this. So that's why the part of the hijab is that the hair is not shown as something or a hump of the camel, as the Prophet ﷺ said. And in the narrations of the hadith, إِلْعَنُهُنَّ فَإِنَّهُنَّ مَلْعُونَاتٌ, curse them because they are cursed. The cursing here is for those who have this, but not to curse a woman in particular. If a person sees a woman like this, he should not say, لَعَنَكِ اللَّهِ, may Allah curse you. Now, that's not permissible to curse al-mu'ayyan. It's not permissible to curse a person by his name. Instead, something should be said to her that whoever does this, he is cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the curse meaning being kicked out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, unless a person repents to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But cursing individuals, this is not permissible to curse people with their names or with their pointing the fingers and so on. But this is a very definitely dangerous thing. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide us and to provide our families and our women and the Muslim ummah with chastity and afaf and satr, and to make them love the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also for the men to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Covering the face.
Now, covering the face. As we said before, it's covering the hijab of the women is to cover the whole body. The issue of the face, it depends who you ask, but if you're asking me, the face should be covered. Because of the evidences are much clearer. The ayah in Surah Al-Ahzab, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, to cover all of the body, وَيُبْدِينَ عَيْنًا وَاحِدًا, and they show one eye of the way. But in Surah Al-Nur, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا, except what is shown from the woman, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he said, الْوَجْهِ وَالْكَفَّيْنِ, the face and the hands. So the same person, Sahabi radiallahu anhu, is saying in one place, face and the hands, and in other ayah says nothing to be shown except one eye. What does that mean? This is with the tarjih of the ulama. One is an asl than the other. So this is the original thing, is that the hijab is without the face being covered, and then the covering comes later. And that's why Surah Al-Ahzab was revealed after Surah Al-Nur. So many said this was later then. It was originally like this, and then the final verses was about covering. Plus, when the verses were revealed, how did they apply it? And it was well known till the British and the French occupied most of the Muslim world. Till then, it was known that the free Muslim woman, she covers her face. Until now, when you go to places, and that's why she might be walking like this, but once there's men coming from a distance, you would find them doing this, right? So this was al-Muslim al-Hurra, the free woman, different than the slaves. The slaves were showing their faces and so on, but for the al-Muhsana, the chaste woman, the free woman, they would all cover. So yes, there is a difference of opinion whether it's mandatory or recommended, but for those who said it's recommended, they said إذا ظهر الفساق في بلد وجب عليها أن تغطي وجهها. If fusaq, evil ones, sinners, they spread in the town, then she has to cover her face because they would look at her, and if she, they would. The beauty is in the face, of course. No.
Another question: like some people say when the women go to Hajj, they don't have to cover their face.
Right. If we again this issue of covering, not covering, it's a valid debate in a matter of knowledge, which the ulama they talk about. And before I answer this one, still for the women, even if they showed their face but the hijab is proper, inshallah, is much better than when the things are, the hijab is not proper whatsoever. But if from the point of view that covering the face is mandatory, the evidence that women have to uncover their face in Hajj and their hands is an evidence to prove that covering the face is mandatory. Because why would the order comes to uncover? That means it's covered, right? The norm is it's covered, but in ihram, uncover it, right? So the norm is that it's covered. Otherwise, if it's already uncovered, why would he alayhi salatu wasalam would order the women to uncover their face? Plus, the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha in Hajj, she said in Hajj, كان إذا مر بنا الركبان, when the caravans or the travelers come next to us, أزدلت إحدانا جلبابها من فوق رأسها. Each one of us would bring her jilbab from the top of her head to cover her head while they're in ihram, so that the men would not see them. So they're uncovering their face because the ihram, but once there are men, they would cover it. So this way also is an evidence that they would cover their face then.
But is there something like when they cover it, should not touch the face?
The issue of not touching the face, there's no evidence of it. What's forbidden for the women in Hajj is the niqab. The niqab is because it shapes the face. It's fit the face. But if it's something from the top, even if it's touching the face, it's not made to shape the face. So it doesn't have to not touch the face. The hijab, again, is the word hijab itself is the concealment of the beauty and so on, and that's what the hijab is. And that's how it was applied when it was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, and women would be away from the eyes of men. So these conditions is to explain it how it was practiced at that time. Because otherwise it's not hijab. If a woman is wearing tight clothing, that's not hijab. If it's transparent, that's not hijab. Hijab is to conceal the beauty of the woman. Of course, definitely. Right. But then the second thing you said?
Like, some of them says wearing the
Oh,
scarf
right. Wearing the scarf is better than not wearing the scarf.
with the jeans.
Right. It's like saying, committing a small sin is better than a major sin. Of course, we should not say, and as a rule in the deen of Islam, we don't say about something wrong that it's better than a bigger wrong. We say it's lesser evil, maybe. We can say it's less evil than this. It doesn't mean that we're praising only the scarf. We're just saying that it's of a lesser evil and it's still evil because the beauty is still there and the fitna is still there, but it definitely is much less than walking with shorts, for example, or things like this. And at the same time, we're in times of jahil and ignorance, so things has to be treated with so much gentleness. So giving the benefits of the doubt. Most of the Muslim women, they don't know. They think that they're doing the right thing. Plus, men did not raise the women to be women and the men to be men. So that it's the full responsibility on the men. And to make things easy for them, to educate them and to change. It's a way of life that needs generations sometimes to change. where what's the goal of raising, when we're raising a girl, when we're raising a boy, what's the goal of what she's going to do when she grow up? All of our Muslim girls, except those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on, they are career oriented, outside of the home. They all want to be this and this and this, and as if, then the fitna starts. Where is the wife to be at home and to take care of the husband and the children? Where is this now in the Muslim world? When this is her place. This is what needs to be invested on. But people look at this, Muslims look at this as backwardness and so on, and part of it is the pressure. We want to look at as if we're fit in whatever. No, the Muslim woman, her place is at home. She leaves home if there is a need. It comes into the issue, is it permissible for her to work or not? That's exception. If she has to work because nobody's supporting her, yes, as long as it's halal and in the proper environment and no mixing and so on, and it's the responsibility of men. There's always a man supporting the woman with honor and dignity, whether it's her husband, or if there's no husband, then it's a father. If there's no father, it's a brother. If it's the community. So it's a very complex situation, and plus the treatment of women from men in many cases, it's not a very good thing, and they are really being dealt with injustice. So the whole thing has to be, taken in consideration. صلى الله عليه وسلم.